When I discovered this, it was transformative for me and transformative for my patients. There are two kinds of people in life. There are people who have plans and goals and work towards those goals. They're like, I'm gonna get up today and I'm gonna advance towards my goals. I wanna accomplish this in life. I'm gonna get better at this. And then there are the rest of us who are like, I don't know how these people do it. I get up today and I struggle. I use a lot of willpower. I try to create habits. I'm trying to be like these people who are productive. But my default state, if you let me do what I want to do, I'm going to do nothing. Now we look at this and we're like, how does this work? Are these people fundamentally different? So trauma is the big difference here. If we grow up in a traumatic environment, there's actually something called the loss of the future dimension. So let's say I go to my parents and I say, hey, I'd like to have a birthday party. Can I invite my friends over? Parents say, sure. Next day, parents are drunk. They get mad at me. They're like, no birthday party. So what will happen if you look at traumatic upbringing is that children can't plan for the future. Any kind of future any kind of autonomy that they express, an abusive parent will shut it down. And this is highly controlling parents too. We see this so much in Asian and South Asian cultures where parents are like, you gotta do this and you gotta do this, no dating, you're gonna study, you're gonna learn piano. So what we're actually doing, this is we see so many gifted kids that stall later in life because in these upbringings, we remove the ability for autonomy. When a child tries to express themselves, we shut it down. The second thing that happens is trauma is about surviving today. So I was working with a patient who would be able to tell within the first 60 seconds to 5 minutes when their dad got home whether they were gonna get beaten today. And so when people grow up in traumatic environments, and it doesn't have to be physical abuse, it can be highly controlling. It can be even children who are parentified is kind of traumatic, where you have a parent who's very chronically ill and is depending on the kid to take care of everything. That's traumatic too. Because then what happens is your brain looks at your day and there's no point in planning for tomorrow. All of your brain's resources are about surviving today. How do I not get abused? How do I make sure that my parents don't notice me? Children who grow up in traumatic environments learn to be invisible. And so then something very important happens in the brain where it stops planning for the future because any plan for the future can change depending on whether your parent is drunk or not. And then if I was gonna have a birthday party, I told all my friends and I got canceled, now that hurts so much. So what happens when we get traumatized is we go into survival mode. We go into protective mode. And this is even mirrored physiologically, where we have two states of the body. We have our catabolic state, where we're breaking things down, we're trying to survive the moment. And we have our anabolic state when we are building for the future. So when I encounter a tiger and I get a burst of cortisol, cortisol breaks down my muscle tissue to provide me with enough energy to survive. We are sacrificing the future to survive the present. And that happens on a physiologic level, it happens on a mental level. So when you grow up in a traumatic environment where you are punished for thinking about the future, you can't plan for anything because your home environment is so chaotic, there's no rules, no organization, and you're focused on survival, that becomes baked in. And what happens when these people grow up is that they are bound by external stimuli. If there is some kind of pressure from the external environment, then I can act. But I cannot derive internal sense of motivation at all. Because now that there's an external deadline, I have to survive that deadline. So they go into this survival mode instead of this being able to look into the future mode. And it's really crippling because it's fundamentally the part of their brain that plans for the future has been disabled.